Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I am looking at a little bit of a different game for this channel. This is my look at Munchkin Shadowrun. Let's roll it. Before we get to the review, I do want to point out a couple of things. First off, this is a review copy that was given to me by Steve Jackson Games, but I have received no other compensation for this review except for the copy of the game. These are my free and fair thoughts as always. Also, thank you so much for watching DM Tales. If you would like to do the like, comment, and subscribe thing, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you would like to support us a little bit more directly, you can become a Ko-fi contributor, become a channel member, and help us to continue doing this really cool stuff. Let's get to the review. There were few games which captured my interest back in the day, like Shadowrun. That magic punk dystopian world set in the back alleys of a cyberpunk Seattle, that just blew my mind. And one of my first forays back into fantasy gaming as an adult was Munchkin. Friends gave me the core deck as a birthday gift one year, and I thought it was hysterical fun. Now, I haven't played that game since my friends moved away, but it sits on my shelf, continuing to ask me what's up and can we try again. So when I saw that Steve Jackson Games was releasing Munchkin Shadowrun and was offering review copies at PAX Unplugged, I jumped at the opportunity. Munchkin Shadowrun comes in a compact square box measuring 10.5 by 10.5 inches. Inside is a single fold board measuring 10 by 20 inches when it's expanded. This board has spots marking the different levels, places for the treasure and door decks, and the discard pile for each of those decks. The board isn't essential to the game, but it does make organizing it a lot easier. Now, the aforementioned treasure and door decks look good. Each displays artwork, which does an admirable job depicting Shadowrun's magic punk theme. My one distraction is the use of a gradient for these cards' borders. It's just a minor thing, but when cards get placed in the deck upside down, my brain glitches a little bit when I see the different color poking out, and I wonder if I've got the card in the wrong deck. Now, this could be deliberate because the cards do have a correct orientation, an up and a down, but I found it nagged at my brain a little bit too much for me to be comfortable with it. Just a really minor little thing. Also included in the box are 6 character cards along with corresponding standees and tokens, so players don't forget who they are playing. These are colorful and have some wonderful artwork. The final contents are a 10-card matrix deck, which is double-sided, a nice-looking 6-sided die, and a 6-page tri-folded instruction booklet, which explains the game. The package is compact, it looks good, and it's easy to store. I quite like it. One of my questions coming into the game was just how well Munchkin could meld with Shadowrun. The latter is grimy and bleak, while the former is presented with whimsical and cartoony, basically. The artwork does a terrific job melding the two, though. Combined cyberpunk and fantasy concepts appear throughout the game's art. They are in Munchkin's cartoony style, and they do lose some of Shadowrun's more grim nature, but that aspect of Shadowrun comes out in gameplay, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The game's design also manages to include Shadowrun lore. This is most noticeable in the treasure cards, where equipment is listed with one of Shadowrun's fictional corporations as the manufacturer. It's a very nice touch. But on the other hand, I would have enjoyed some more design going into the Matrix deck. The Matrix cards are double-sided, which doubles the options for gameplay using that aspect of the game, but in Shadowrun, the digital world is as much a part of the reality as the physical world, and a depiction of cybersecurity elements or hacker terminals would have been cool to see on those cards. It was just a little thing I missed. Setup is simple. The board's unfolded, the treasure and door decks are placed in their spaces, the matrix cards are then separated by level and shuffled. There's only 3 cards for the first 3 levels and 1 for the 4th, so shuffling is not all that difficult. These are then laid out by the board, 2 cards for each matrix level except for the 4th. The excess matrix cards are just set aside. Players select a character, placing their standee on the board and their token on the first matrix card. Each player is dealt 4 cards from both the treasure and door decks, and they may play any cards they are able to before the first turn of the game. This includes things like weapons, powers, erase, armor, and any advancement cards they may have been dealt, so they can start at level 2 if they want, or even 3. Players are allowed to have 2 single-hand weapons or a single two-handed weapon active at any time. Armor pieces cannot be duplicated, each piece of armor can be worn only one at a time, and active powers can never exceed the character's current level. So if you are level 1, you can only have a level 1 power down. If a player ever wants to replace a played card, they may discard it and replace it with a card from their hand. If it's during a time when the move is allowed, that is, because it's not always possible. Once all the characters are created, everyone rolls the d6, the highest roll goes first, and play moves clockwise around the table. Very, very simple. Munchkin gameplay occurs in phases. First, the player must kick down the door. The player draws from the door deck, and if the card reveals a monster, the player must fight it. If the card is a trap, its effect on the character is immediate. If it is any other card, the player places it in their hand. Second, if the player did not fight a monster, they may then either look for trouble or loot the room. If a player looks for trouble, they play a monster card from their hand, and then they must fight it. If they go looting, they draw a treasure card, and they move on to the next phase. Now, here's the thing. If you get away with loot, why would a player ever want to look for trouble? We'll talk about that in combat in just a little bit. Third, the player gives charity. Players may not have more than 5 cards in their hand at the end of their turn. In order to reach 5 cards, they either have to play cards they are holding or give them to other players. Typically, they give the cards to the player with the lowest level, but if players are tied, the excess cards are split between the other players as evenly as possible. Once charity is completed, the player's turn is over. Each monster in the game has a level. To fight the monster, a player adds up their character's level, their matrix level, and any bonuses they have from their played cards. They may also play any items in their hand which are marked one-shot to help them fight. If the total number is greater than the monster's level, the character wins. This grants the character a level advancement, and they receive the reward that's listed on the monster's card. The volume of loot offered by monsters, as well as the level advancement, is why a player may decide to look for trouble during their turn. More stuff and more levels makes the character that much more tough. Very, very cool. If a player cannot beat the monster's number, they must run away. The player rolls a d6. If a 5 or 6 shows on the dice, the character's flight is successful. If not, the monster's bad stuff is inflicted upon the combatant, and the player gets nothing but hurt. If a player reaches level 10, they win the game. Munchkin has dead simple mechanics, so simple, in fact, that the rules can make it seem rather mundane. In practice, this is not the case, because the other players also want to win. When a player is involved in combat, the other players are able to participate. For example, they may offer to jump in for a share of the loot, or a promise for help in a future encounter. If a player is too far ahead, however, everybody else at the table might decide to hold them back. This may be accomplished by adding a wandering monster to the combat, which increases the level the player has to beat, or by boosting the monster with certain items to put the level out of the player's reach, or maybe by tossing a trap at the combatant to weaken them. This ties in rather well with Shadowrun's grimy, we're not heroes, we're on a job aesthetics. Pretty cool. Munchkin is, in practice, not really a card game. It's a game of unsubtle manipulation, backstabbing, and bribery. It's great fun at the table because the folks should come understanding that it's all goofy and is a literal game, not a prescription of how to act in the real world. In Munchkin Shadowrun, hacking the Matrix is a new win condition for the game. On their turn, players may decide to fulfill the obligation written on the current Matrix card in order to advance forward. These requirements often weaken the player's hand and may bolster another player, so hacking is a strategic play. Can you afford it, is the question. Whenever a player advances, they do whatever's indicated on the card's lower right corner, often drawing a door card and then dealing with the fallout. When a character reaches level 4, they must face the Grid Overwatch Division, or GOD, and if they defeat the GOD, they win the game. It's a nice little touch. I love the negotiating and backstabbing elements of Munchkin. See, when you're playing with people who embrace the silliness of the game and lean into it, there's a lot of laughter to be had. I appreciate that. And even with the chaos of player negotiations, the game structure is procedural, so there's always a base to which to return. Munchkin Shadowrun succeeds in creating the mix of free form and structured play to which I'm drawn, and to that end, it's right up my alley. I enjoyed the integration of Shadowrun to the core Munchkin gameplay. The artwork is fun, the inclusion of some Shadowrun lore is a really nice touch. Now, folks who don't know the RPG will miss most of the integration and they'll just think of it as a typical cyberpunk adaptation of Munchkin, but that won't diminish the fun they have. I really appreciate it. At the moment, the Matrix is probably my least favorite part of the game. Yeah, it does give the characters a bit of a boost, and it has the potential to speed up gameplay if a character's hacks unleash a monster. On the other hand, it felt hacked on. During my playtest, most folks just ignored the Matrix, and when someone did advance, we always forgot to draw from the door deck because people already paid a price to advance, and it felt weird to put them at risk all over again. Now, I do understand how hacking the Matrix can add to gameplay. So the more I play Munchkin Shadowrun, the more I think I'll understand how to enjoy it. Right now, though, we played the game just fine forgetting it was there most of the time. Would I play this game again? With the right group of people, yes. Because to enjoy this game, you do need to have players who both jump at the chance to break into the game's procedures to muck things up, and laugh at the antics as people try to negotiate a way forward. If you can laugh at yourself, this is a pretty good game to try out. And if you have ever enjoyed Shadowrun or any other type of magic punk setting, the melding of genres in this version of Munchkin is just terrific. So, probably worth trying out. You can get Munchkin Shadowrun at your friendly local game store or from Steve Jackson Games' website. The box set right now retails for $39.95. All right, coming up, I have at the end of this month, March 28th through 30th, EcclesiaCon taking place in Palmyra, New Jersey, raising money for Central Baptist Churches. That is the location where the convention is being held, roof replacement loan, as well as booksmiles.org, a fantastic literacy organization here in South Jersey. 25% is going to the roof loan, 75% is going to Book Smiles. Come on out. Roll some dice, do some good. It is an absolute blast. And now I have got all the things that were nagging at my brain that I had to get to before I finished writing my Path of Glory adventure path review for Dragonbane. It's a really cool adventure path. It offers some really neat adventure styles. It's not all one thing. I cannot wait to actually sit down and write it. Been putting it off just as I'm chewing on it, but I've got the general structure and typey will begin very soon. Looking forward to that. After that, I have got a lot of games sitting over on my bed that I just haven't even cracked open yet, so I'm going to try to catch up. I have got Dreams and Machines from Modiphius. I have Tales of Argosa from Pickpocket Press, which I've read and really want to get to. I've got a new Mutant Crawl Classics funnel. I have a couple of EZD6 books I really want to look at. I got Project Sunflower sitting over here, Blades in the Dark. So many games to read and to write reviews for. I also have to finish reading Household because somewhere along the line I got distracted from that and need to re-jump into it. So many games, so much fun, so many cool ideas to be sharing with all of you. And until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.